Here's to whiskey kisses, the peaty taste of sin.
Greetings, Whisky folk, and welcome back to Drinking Out Loud's exploration of the Dare to Dram Whisky Advent Calendar for 2024. We are counting down the days till Christmas and using whiskey as our counting mechanism. It's a great way to keep track of things. Although, you have too much, you do lose track of things. So, drink in moderation always. So this is for a local private whiskey club where we put together an Advent calendar because Advent calendars in BC are rare and prohibitive, so we make our own here, which is, honestly, a really fun exercise. So I've put together this list of whiskey for some of my close whiskey friends here in Victoria, and I encourage you guys to do the same next year because it's a lot of fun. All you need is several hundred little glass jars that look a bit like this, and a box, and print off you some cards and find 24 bottles of whiskey, or 25 bottles of whiskey if you include Christmas like we do. Anyway, this is an interesting one, because this falls into the category of... I've got a pen. This falls into the category of whiskies that I've had before and kind of hoarded some because it was a limited edition and I really liked it. And this is now my last bottle and I wanted to share it with people. I know that I love this whiskey and I'm really sad to see it go. And I do have slight regret that I didn't just drink the whole thing or keep the whole bottle for myself. But it's, like I've always said, it's not whiskey till it's shared. And I know that there's some people in this club who liked this whiskey when it was released, and there's quite a few people in this club who have probably never had this one. So this was the Highland Park Dark Origins, a special edition that came out just before Highland Park swapped to its very Viking-centric branding, which they're now swapping back from again. I guess Vikings and whiskey aren't a thing that generally go hand in hand. Who knew? Maybe Scottish references is a better branding. So this is Highland Park Dark Origins, which is a heavily sherry cask influenced version. They say it's double first fill sherry casks. I'm not entirely sure what that means. Like, do they put it in first fill sherry casks and then finish it again in first fill sherry casks, or is it just twice as many first fill sherry casks as they normally use? Not quite sure what the double is. Either way, lots of first fill sherry casks, and the branding is a homage to their origin story, their dark origin, if you will. Feels a little bit like a Batman story almost. All right, there is information on the back of the tube that I'll share. So they've written a little story. Establishing I've had a whiskey. Establishing a secret bunker in the hills of Highland Park in Orkney, Magnus Mansi Jensen became a dark distiller. Sounds like witchcraft. Creating whiskey for the people of Orkney to offer relief from the villainy of the tax collectors. Speaking of tax collectors, one of the reasons I'm here late at night right now recording is because I have to pull a trigger at midnight to make sure that all of our beer and wine suddenly doesn't have any GST attached to it on the website, but all of our spirits do. Because, I have no particular opinion either way on this tax break. It has good sides and bad sides, but my lord, is it a pain in the ass for small local businesses to actually navigate. Anyway, by day, he worked tirelessly to his church, in his church, providing spiritual guidance to the people of Orkney. But in the dead of night, he handcrafted the best elixir in the world, warming hearts and uniting all who tasted it. Cool. Lovely whiskey. One of the things that always kind of irked me is that I never have any idea really how much is left in the bottle. And knowing that there have been a few bottles in this series of videos where I haven't managed to fully empty it, I am going to just fingers crossed and... Oh yeah, there was some left. little extra for me. Nice. Great little whiskey. Bottle that's, was it 46.8? I don't know how they landed on that number, but I mean, anything above 40 is a bonus. And, Here's the details on the card. Highland Park Dark Origins pays homage to Magnus Jensen, the distillery's illicit founder. Crafted with sherry-rich intensity, it offers aromas of cocoa, dried fruit and spice. The palate reveals smoky peat and dark chocolate, and black cherries with a warm, lingering finish of oak and honey, a tribute to a bold legacy of smuggling and spirit. Region is Islands/Highlands in Scotland. Style is a single malt Scotch whisky. No age statement on this one, but first fill ex sherry casks. Discontinued small batch from 2016, released at 46.8% with no added colour or chill filtration. So, To quote Ralphie, I think it is that says this is a integrity malt for 2 out of 3. No colour or chill filtration, but it doesn't have an age statement. So, I think 2 out of 3 is not bad. Hey, Ralphie, what do you think of the Dark Origins? I'm sure he's probably got a video out there on it. Yeah. Highland Park and sherry, Highland Park's one of those flexible distilleries, like I talked about in the Ardmore video a few days ago. There are certain distilleries that work well with both sherry and bourbon, in my eyes, and Highland Park's one of them. I have a slight preference, though, with Highland Park. I generally prefer sherry, but the bourbon cask ones are great as well. In fact, the full volume, I'm not sure about what I just said. The full volume was absolutely fantastic, and some of the bourbon cask SNWS bottlings we've had, maybe I don't have a preference. They're both good. But I do specifically like this one. I remember it has this sort of funky blackcurrant note, slightly fermented blackcurrants that have been smoked. Fermented smoked blackcurrant. How's that for a avant-garde tasting note? Oh yeah. And just this soft lingering smoke that just fades in this beautifully smooth gradient of fade out. It's perfectly linear. It doesn't drop off at any point. It just slowly and then until if you're not paying attention, you don't think it's there. But if you pay attention again, oh yeah, it's still there. It's just very faint. It's still there on the tongue. And just incredibly easy to drink. Absolutely zero harsh notes, zero burn. This is a great whiskey for people who aren't sure yet about smoke. They're dipping their toe into the smoky water, and they're not quite there for something Islay. Very, very inviting. It's like going for a walk on a dark night in a bodega with a freshly carved walking stick. I don't know. There's a woody thing going on. I was going to say trees, but why would a tree be in the bodega? Casks. Casks are in bodegas. No. Wood. Wood and earthen floors and darkness. And sherry. And smoke. And just really beautiful whiskey. I really hope that with the relaunch of Highland Park that they look at doing something like this again as maybe a semi-regular bottling, like a once-a-year release or something. The cask strength has been a good annual release, although I don't quite understand why it keeps going up quite so much in price every year. That was one of the best things about this whiskey, is it was very approachable in the price, like $100 or something back in the day. It was really approachable on the price as well, which is nice. So I'm hopeful that maybe they look at bringing something along the lines of this whiskey back. Now they've dropped all the Viking shtick. We'll see though. I'm really intrigued actually right now with what's going on with a lot of brands that are sort of pivoting. I think the slight dip in the market recently, which I don't think is a whiskey lock. I don't think we're going to go into a whiskey recession anytime soon. I think it's just a correction. I think a lot of people stocked up heavily over the pandemic, and we had such a massive boom in the whiskey industry in 2020 and 2021. I think it's just correcting itself. I think there's still just as much interest and passion about whiskey. It's just that people kind of have a lot of whiskey on hand right now, and maybe they're drinking a little less as well and trying to drink better. So we'll see where that goes. That's my kind of guess on the state of the industry. But there are a lot of distilleries who are taking time to step back and reconfigure what they're doing. And I just learned, I did not know this until yesterday, Scapa, the other Orkney distillery, one of my all-time favourites, is finally bringing back their proper good age-statement whiskey. The Glancer and the Orcadian are no more. I didn't like them. I thought they were just subpar shadows of what Scapa is capable of, but they've released, I think it's a 10 or something that they didn't really have before. I'm looking forward to trying that, but they're re-releasing the 16 and I think or is it the 14? They've had a 16 and a 14 in the past. One of them they're bringing back, and I think either an 18 or a 21 as well. I think it's a 16 and a 21 if I remember correctly, and the new packaging is absolutely gorgeous. It looks like a little bit like the New Glen Glassock packaging as well. So I'm really hoping that we get the new Scapa on the market here in the next little while, and it's certainly something I'll be looking out for. If I'm lucky enough to take another trip to Europe in the next year or two, I'll be scoping out a bottle of that 16 because proper good Scapa. It's a thing of beauty. And as is proper good Highland Park. If you ever see an old dusty bottle of Highland Park Dark Origins, do yourself a favour, pick it up. It is a great whiskey. I think, honestly, I think this is better than a lot of the really high-end stuff that Highland Park subsequently put out right after this. Like the Ice and Fire, this is better than either of them. I would say this is better than... I've not had all of the Nordic Gods series. I had was it the Thor and the Odin, or was it the Freya? I had 2 of them. I forget which ones now. And they were good, but they didn't scratch the itch, and they certainly didn't scratch the value itch like the Dark Origin did. This was a special whiskey of its time, and I should have stocked up more, but I'm glad I got to share it with some friends one last time. So yeah, Sláinte thank you for joining us on day 17, December 17th, and tomorrow is December 18th, and that means, you guessed it, another whiskey. I'll see you there.